Hey everybody, it is 1:15 and we are doing this. All right, we are officially ready. Welcome to another CFJ Coaching Success School show. We are going to get started. Amber, Chris, and I, the fabulous faculty member, are still working out how she is going to be joining me. So we're going to start, and I am confident that between Amber and I, we're going to do this as we serve you about you and your practice. And what we want to talk with you about today, what I'm going to start the conversation about, and of course, we're going to take your questions, is just this past weekend, we had the third month of the CFJ Coaching Success School. And one of the things we talked about was coaches and their calendars, right? Coaches and their calendars and kind of what the deal is with not color coding, not what view you're looking at, but are you putting things on your calendar? Michelle Bauman, who's a coach that was my best friend and business partner, and still is in some ways, used to say to coaches, we vote with two things. We vote with our calendar and we vote with our checkbook. So many coaches that I know and that I've served and coaches in the school are not putting regular time on their calendars to do stuff. They're not putting regular time on their calendars to do stuff like sit very uncomfortably and look at who they'd like to serve. So most coaches are not doing regular time where they are sitting at their computer just asking themselves what they would like, who they would like to serve. So I want to talk about that. And that's one of the questions I have for you, which is like, are you putting regular time on your calendar to do things like sit and look around on Facebook and talk? So I want to know what's happening in your world. I want to start getting into questions and start talking about how you're doing this right now in real time. So I will take questions in the comments and we will do this. Let's see. All right, we've got Carrie and we've got Pamela and we've got Claire Marie. Good to see you guys. Tell me what's happening in your world. I want to hear about how calendaring is going. And is that something you do regularly? Like, do you put time on your calendar and just sit in the discomfort and ask yourselves what's happening and who would I like to serve? So I want to hear about that. I want to hear about how that's going and tell me more. So I know that all of you are involved in the activity of growing your business. So I want to hear more about that. And I want to hear more about how it's going. I'm going to share until I get some more questions. So I think one of the most uncomfortable things as a coach at various points in your practice is this thing of sitting in front of your computer and asking yourself, who can I serve? Who can I serve? So Jackie, I see you just raised your fees and you're looking for communities that have more resources. I'm sure you have experience with this and you can share. Claire Marie, you're spending 30 minutes every morning connecting on Facebook, more intentionally after last week's call. That's great. I love that. So I'm going to speak a little bit to what Jackie is asking about. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this idea. So, remember, we vote with our calendars and we vote with our checkbooks. So in the beginning, when Michelle and I were just starting to do this, we were sitting like at our respective computers on the phones being like, what are you doing? Well, I wonder what you're doing. And we would just sit and go through our emails, and we would sit and look at Facebook or Instagram or whatever and be like, who am I called to serve? Who am I called to serve? And sometimes it was really uncomfortable because it requires not just reacting to what you're seeing. It really requires being thoughtful about who am I called to serve. And some of us are looking through the lens of who's in rough shape and who needs help, who's in rough shape versus like who's talking about something that they're creating, like who's doing something that is meaningful to them. Because that's what I'm looking for. It's not that we can't help people who are, really in challenging places. Certainly coaching can be useful. But really spending, we used to spend, I want to say like 2 or 3 days a week, 45 minutes just sitting and looking at our emails and looking at Facebook and looking. So I want to invite you all. I want to comment, Pamela. You said, I am trying to spend time each morning early before emails start flying in for your communications business, but it's kind of stop and start. I need to make it more of a habit. Listen, amen. I really want to, this is where habits really matter. And this is where practice really matters, right? You really want to be willing to be like, am I willing to set it on my calendar? So for you, Pamela, it might be, I'm scheduling 30 minutes, 3 days a week early before things start to happen. And I'm going to sit there and I'm not going to let myself jump into my other work. I'm going to sit there. I'm going to stay on Facebook. I'm going to stay on what I've been doing and do it and really book it. I mean, for some of you, every day may be too much, depending on what your life is like, but 3 days a week, 30 minutes would get real results. Because inevitably someone will come to you, whether it's through your scrolling or whether it's just through sitting. I know people who just sit quietly and close their eyes and ask themselves, who can I serve? Who can I serve? If I did that right now, people would come to me. So I want to respond to Jackie's question, and then I'm also going to respond a little bit more, but I want to acknowledge Amber and I are having some technical difficulties. We are not yet seeing how she can request to join, and she has so much to share. So I'm like in pain knowing how much Amber wants to talk to you guys, to all of you, and we're gonna keep waiting because something magical may happen. I'm gonna keep sharing and working with you all. So Jackie, I want to respond to your question. I also just raised my fees, and I'm looking for communities that have more resources. It's an interesting question, right? So I hear you. Your question is, so the current communities you have, you're saying you have a thought or you've tested that they can no longer afford your fees. That's number one. Because sometimes we make assumptions that people are no longer possible. They no longer can join our fees. So I do want to say that before I just jump into that, Jackie, and you can respond in the comments about that. So I want to see what you say to that. So I want to say that. And I also want to say to you, Carrie, when I've received a comment from an acquaintance or a blast from the past on one of my posts, doing some detective work before responding, sitting with them and attuning, then getting them to see me as a professional coach versus just a girlfriend ear. Right. So that is really important, that you don't, you want to convert personal relationships or former people seeing you as a friend into seeing you as a coach. So I totally get that. And that is real, that's real art and work. So what I want to say is that to you, Jackie, I asked you a question about whether or not you're making an assumption that the current communities you have cannot afford your new fees, because that is an assumption that we often make. Number two, I also want to say that in terms of finding new communities, we're at kind of an interesting time, right? Because maybe you're starting to just get back out into the world, and there are places that you can you can do that. I think I heard you say, do I know my community can't afford my fee? No, I brought on 3 new people at my new fee. So I guess I'm making an assumption. Exactly. So it's really important that we look at that, right? It's like we don't want to make assumptions about people and their money. We often call it getting into their bank account. So we don't want to try to get into their bank account at all. We want to stay over here and experiment and see what happens, right? Because Jackie, you just shared, right? You got like you just brought on new clients at your new fee from your current world. So that is, first of all, congratulations. And I'm going to talk for a little bit about new community, and then we're going to go back to calendar, and I'm going to go to your questions. So new community. So I have a coach I was just talking to doing a coaching session. She's in the school, and she shared with me that she has started to build a relationship with the Chamber of Commerce in her community. And she's been doing some open talks in that. So that is one idea for you, Jackie. Like, are you looking at local organizations where you can serve, right? There's the Chamber of Commerce. There are women's professional groups. I did a lot of like talks within women's professional groups for a while. That can be a great way to broaden your community and serve more people. It's like organizations right now, especially because so much is happening over Zoom, they're looking for people to come in and help make Zoom meetings obviously more enriching and more fulfilling. So that is another thing. If you have not yet explored those kinds of communities, I would highly recommend that if you're like, I need to get some new communities in my world, that would be one direction I would go in. I would look at that. If I didn't have other communities I was already a part of. It's really important for professional coaches to find places they can serve and make a difference. I'm a fan of women, so I did a lot of work in women in business. But if you have other loves, right? I know people who've gone into parenting organizations. I know a coach who offered to do some talks for her, the school she went to from K through 12, right? She went to a private school. She reached out via the alumni network. She started talking to them. So if you have a university you went to, a college, those are all places where you potentially could go back and serve and get connected. So I do want to say that. Amanda, glad you're here. All right, so Patricia, let's take your question. And that is, when someone says they're interested but want to wait, and what do you do? Like, how do you reach back out? Like, what do you do when someone's like, they want to move ahead but they want to wait? So it's a great question, right? And lots of coaches have that occur. I don't know one coach who hasn't had that happen, where someone says, I really want to do this. I so want to do this. And I need to wait. I need to wait until I have more money, or I need to wait. Sometimes it's a timing issue. So that is really important to slow down on. So I want to be really clear with people. Like, you want to wait, it's totally fine. Totally fine if you want to wait. Sometimes I'll say, so tell me, is there something in particular you're waiting for, right? Because sometimes people have a particular like situation, like I have this event happening in my family, or I'm waiting for this bonus check, or it's a good way to test what's happening. You'd be like, hey, waiting's great. If you're okay with waiting, I'm okay with waiting. Tell me what you're waiting on, because I'm just curious. Right? It's okay to ask that for Patricia and for everyone. It is completely okay to ask, tell me what you're waiting on. Like, it's good with me. And sometimes people are saying they're going to wait because they're being polite, right? They're like, I don't really want to say to this person, it feels like too much money, or I don't know if I want to do this. So I'll just say, I do want to do it, but I'm just going to wait. So a question that can be helpful is, tell me what you're waiting for. Like, I'm fine with waiting. So it's important that we say that, right? Because it's not about us. It's like, I'm not waiting on my transformation. You want to wait on yours. That's totally okay, because sometimes it's important to wait. And I want to find out if they're like, hey, it's a bonus check issue. Like, I want to do this. What I want to say to them is, that's great. So if it's a bonus check issue, here's what I'm going to offer, and it's fine to say no. We can put a launch date on the calendar for after when you're going to have your bonus. And the only requirement is you have to put down a $500 deposit to hold your space on my calendar, or a $250 deposit. Depending on your fees, you make it appropriate. Some coaches do 10% of their fees is the deposit. So if someone's like, I want to start, but I don't want to do it till September, what I will say to someone then is I'll say, hey, so that's totally fine. So let me just clarify something. Or if you know you want to start in September, the way to make that happen is we put your launch date on the calendar and you put down a deposit, and that holds your space. Now, if you're like, I think I want to start in September, but I'm not sure, I need to wait, then we don't do anything. And then you reach out, and if I'm available, great. And if I'm not, all fine. We'll look at other times. So tell me about like where you are. So I want to hear from Patricia. Now, the other thing is I want to keep serving someone. So let's say someone says, oh, I don't know, I don't want to put down a deposit. Let me reach out to you in September. And I say, great, totally fine. So I don't want to be like, I don't want to keep checking in with them. I don't want to keep touching base. I don't want to keep, I may occasionally send a resource like, oh my gosh, I came across this resource. I thought of you, Patricia. That's it. It's not about us reaching back out. It's about us serving, right? It's about them, not us. So I want to strategically serve someone. So I might come across another resource and I might say, hey, Patricia, this came across my desk too. Let me know how it is for you. And I want to know how you're doing. So I want to be thoughtful, and I want to be strategic. I don't want to go dark on someone. I want to kind of every few months send them something. And I want to be checking inside that it has nothing, like I'm not trying to get them. I'm not trying to be like, hey, are you ready to give me your money? Has you decided yet? I want to be like, I'm serving. All right. Patricia, let me know in the comments, is that helpful? Does that give you some guidance for how to proceed? All right. So from Mary, I'm working on developing my professional self versus my social self. In Steve Chandler's online program, you have a piece in there about slime syndrome. I'm working on it. I've had some slimy past emails. Guess what? They didn't work. This week, 2 people I do not know submitted forms on my website to schedule a conversation. This is what I've crafted from my professional self. Can you sniff any slime? Don't hold back. All right, I'm going to read it so we'll all look at it. Hello, I'm excited you reached out to me for a coaching conversation. Let's stop right there. So Mary, you're excited? I love excitement, but when I'm in my professional self, I don't like it's when someone's my client, I'm excited, I'm thrilled. I don't want to say I'm excited. I don't want to say I'm fine. I'm not excited and I'm not disappointed. I'm good. So I just want to say thank you for reaching out, or I acknowledge you for reaching out. So I would look at that top line and say, is there social self in there? Because who's excited? Who's that about? That's about you. That's not about them. So it might be like, I acknowledge you for reaching out. So I want to offer you that. I understand you're wanting balance, perspective, and structure to help support you in life and business. I'd like to invite you to a coaching conversation on Zoom where we can explore this more. So, Mary, one thing, when you say, I'd like to invite you to a coaching conversation on Zoom, they've already reached out to you. So they've already said, I want to connect. If they've already done that, the way I want to respond is say, here are options for us to have a preliminary conversation where I can learn more about you. I can learn more about what you're wanting to create in your life. So here are options for us to have a preliminary conversation. Here are options. So instead of, I'd like to invite you, I want to offer to you that like, they've already initiated interest. So that's one thing. So I don't need to invite them anymore. I'm saying, here are options for us to have a preliminary conversation where we'll dive in more to what's happening in your world. And I give 2 options, and then what you said. plan on this. I don't know. I'm going to give you a heads up. Looking forward to speaking with you soon. I love that. Everyone's going to be like, what? That's crazy. That's social self. Because Steve Chandler once said to me and Michelle, how do you know you're looking forward to speaking to them? How do you know that you have no idea? We have no idea who they are. So I encourage you, Mary, to play with this. It's like, I'm going to be really, this isn't really about slime. This is about leadership. So there's a distinction. Sometimes we're sliming people with our social self, and sometimes we're not leading. There's lack of leadership. So, and they can cross over. They can both get a little dicey. So what I want to say to you is, you really don't need let me know what works best for you. I want to offer you that. I remember Steve Chandler once said to me, don't you think they're going to let you know? Isn't that part of the gig? Like, they're going to let you know what works for them. If you say, here are options. Then the other thing is you can just sign your name. You can say, plan on 60 to 75 minutes, Mary. And for many people, initially, that feels wildly uncomfortable. It's like, oh, that feels so cold or like lacking in warmth. And I want to offer, particularly for women, although there's plenty of men in my coaching school who do a lot of social self. So it's not exclusive to women, but women kind of can be more socialized that way. That look forward to talking to you. I'm excited. And that it can really diminish who we are as professionals. And the best way to describe it is, I don't know how many doctors and lawyers are like, I'm excited to get to see your brain tomorrow. Can't wait. Looking forward to seeing it. Excuse me. So I invite you to look through the lens of other professions and go, well, lawyers, doctors, do they do that? Would it be, if a doctor or a lawyer said to me, I can't wait, I'm excited, so this is rigorous. So Ed, which I think Ed Leland, I think it's you're Lisa, right? I keep forgetting. It sounds personable yet professional. I'd contact you. And I see it differently based on my own experience with these. So again, this is so great, right? You get to decide. This is one of the best things about this profession is that you get to decide, well, what is going to work for me? So some of this also, Mary, depends on who are the people you're serving, right? So if you're serving people that are not in a professional setting, maybe there's more room. But if you're serving people that are in a professional setting, that are in corporate or that are in business, then I want to be even crisper in my initial communications in the setting up of a conversation. So, so I want to hear, if you're here, Mary, like, are you here and how is this for you? So if you're here, Mary, tell me, like, what are your thoughts on what I'm saying? And then we're going to continue on. And then Ed Leland, who is not Ed Leland, you're enrolling in a coaching school tomorrow. That's so exciting. I want to hear more. Like, what school are you enrolling in? That's fabulous. Mary, thank you. Exactly what I needed to hear. I want to be a crisp leader and not drippy sweet. This is awesome. Just so you know, that would make Michelle so happy to hear you say that. Like, Michelle was someone who was so like oozed warmth and oozed it. And I still remember the email Steve sent her back when she was like, I'm so looking forward to meeting with you. And he was like, what is that? Like, how can you know that? Like, really consider it. And the other thing, which I love about this part of the conversation that we're having today, is precision language, right? So it's like when I'm writing to someone and I say, let me know which one works for you, we could really get precise and go, is that necessary? If someone we know is going to say, I want to do that one, they're going to. So are we being precise, and are we looking at how many words we're using, right? There's some beautiful work that I'm involved in and I'm one of their lead facilitators. I'm actually the lead facilitator on the West Coast for the Alchemy Group. The Alchemy Group does incredible work in corporations all around the world, and they're the two owners of the Alchemy Group are coaches who actually are in my school. Their names are Sandra Sullivan and Allison Wick, and they are fantastic. And they do a whole piece in their work about, are you overspending your verbal dollars? Are you overspending your verbal dollars? And I'm going to take that. I'm going to steal like an artist and say, are you overspending your written dollars? Right? So when we're writing, many of us put in a lot of excess. Now, this is particularly important in the enrollment part of the process, right? It's like, looking forward to seeing you, let me know. And it's a new practice to pull back from being like, is that needed? Is it necessary? And really start to be more crisp in languaging, right? Are you overspending your verbal dollars? Now, I want to say that doesn't mean we can't be warm. It doesn't mean that you can't be friendly, but it's really important for all professional coaches to look at. Heather Daly, I'm so glad you're here again. All right, I want to go back to the calendar conversation, and I'm going to share a little bit about the fabulous Amber Chris, who we couldn't figure it out today, but we will, I promise you. I'm going to make sure everyone here gets some of Amber in their CFJ Coaching Success School showtime. Amber was someone who she came from the world of performance. She was on Broadway as a performer, and she talks a lot about coming out of the world of professional theater and into the world of professional coaching. She actually attended the University of Santa Monica, where she earned her master's degree in spiritual psychology, and then she did the Consciousness, Health, and Healing program. And then she also went through the coaching program when it was available there. And that was the program that was taught by myself and Stephen McGee, along with Doctors Ron and Mary Holnick and Steve Chandler. And Michelle Bauman was Amber's coach. And Amber shares a lot in her work with coaches about the discomfort of getting messy, right? Professional theater, professional performing. Not a lot of room to get messy, right? You have to be precise in your steps. You have to have every move down. And in the world of coaching, especially when we're starting, especially in enrollment, this is where it gets messier. It gets a little bit like, I'm going to be awkward and I'm going to feel a little green. And while the people we're talking with may have no idea how awkward and green we feel inside, it is a natural part of the professional coaching progression, particularly in the beginning, to feel awkward, to feel green, to have it feel messy, where saying something comes out all flubbed. We had a coach in the school share this weekend about how he kind of garbled, got nervous when he was talking about his fees. He's like, that hasn't happened to me in a while. And we just said, chances are the other person did not even register that. And we register it in a very big way. So what I want to say here is like to really, especially if you're new, if you're in the first 2 years, you really want to make it okay that it's going to feel messy and that you might feel awkward and green, especially if you are coming from a long run in another profession, right? Lawyers who become coaches, CEOs who become coaches, teachers, doctors, salespeople, right, who then decide, like, they get into personal growth and they want to be a coach, which is amazing. And all of a sudden they start doing this and they're like, oh my God, this feels, they've had so much proficiency in another profession, and then we're starting here, and to be willing to be beginners and to be willing to allow it to be messy. Amber has talked so much about that and about how she learned how to work with herself in these conversations so that when it felt messy, she didn't collapse on herself. And just in the class, she was sharing how she would have Post-its all over her computer about, here's where I'm going to say this, here's where I'm going to say that. She took the muscle that she learned in professional theater and applied it to professional coaching, called, I'm going to practice, I'm going to have notes, I'm going to have my script around so that if I get a little nervous, it's there. obviously someone's not going to see you with that, right? It's like, but if you're doing a Zoom call, you can have some notes stuck to the side. If you're doing a phone call, you can have notes. I did that all the time in the beginning. So I share that so that you can know, like, having some notes around, like, Steve used to say things to me, and I'd be like, I'm saying that to that person. And I would write it down and I would put it right next to my phone and be like, I'm saying that this time. And I would be really clear, like it was okay. In the beginning, many coaches don't have their own voice yet, especially in enrollment. Like there's learning how to be a leader in these conversations takes time. So having other coaches who are further down the path give you language is really one of the most helpful things. If you're not in a place where you are getting language for this, that's number one. Number one, find a place where you can learn language for how to talk when you're in an enrollment conversation, when you're at the end of one. That is something we spend enormous amounts of time on in the school, where we do game film and we'll slow down the end of a conversation and be like, okay, what did you say there? What did you say right there? And then we'll tweak it. We'll be like, next time we're going to have you practice this. So it's really helpful. So I want to acknowledge Mary for bringing her email to the CFJ Coaching Success School show. She's clearly not messing around, right? She's like, I'm going to get some coaching live, and I'm going to share my email. So bravo to you, Mary. And then Linda. I'm so sorry, Linda. I didn't remember. Linda, I want to know, where are you going? What coaching school are you going to? Fill us in. Fill us all in. So calendar. So I want to put a game on the table for everyone who's coming to the CFJ Success School show, or if you're watching this video. I'm going to give you a challenge that between now and the next show, you find at least 2 times that you're going to put on your calendar. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 20 minutes, where you're just going to sit, whether you look at Facebook or Instagram or your email, and it's all going to be enrollment time. And you're going to put it on your calendar, and you're going to say, all right, and you're going to sit in front of your computer and you're going to go, who can I serve? Who would I love to serve? And you're going to use your Facebook or Instagram or your emails as a prompt, as a way to be like, who's there that I would love to serve? And someone's going to stand out to you. But you're going to block out this time on your calendar. 2 times, 3 times, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So I want to know in the comments, who's willing? Who's going to play the game? Who's in on the challenge? All right, who's going to say, yep, I'm going to put time on my calendar between now and next Tuesday, and I'm going to put 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and I'm going to sit in enrollment time, and I'm going to put that on my calendar. I'm going to block it out. I'm going to vote with my calendar. It's not going to be in my head, and I'm not going to be like, oh, maybe tomorrow. I'll see how it's going. Or, ooh, Friday. I'll see how I feel Friday. We're not going to see how we feel. This is about declaring it and really like professionalizing yourself. To be like, yeah, that's part of what I do. Every week I spend time sitting in enrollment and going, who can I serve? And then I'm going to write an invite during that time, or I'm going to private message someone. So who is willing? All right, Carrie, I love it. You're in. Pamela's in. Zach, love it. So glad you're here. Oh, Mary, I love that. She currently has 12 sticky notes for coaching on her computer. When they lose stick, I use tape. Absolutely. All right, Patricia. Yes. Good. This is great, everybody. All right. So then next week, Claire Marie, I love it. Mary is in. Lisa's playing. Jackie in. Challenge accepted. Heather. All right. Well done, people. Love that you're in the challenge. Francine Landis, what would 2 examples be for options to have a preliminary conversation? I'm not sure I understand your question. Do you mean like, when I say 2 options, it's like 2 dates and 2 times. So if someone writes via my website, I write back and I say, I acknowledge you for reaching out. Here are 2 options for a conversation. And I put 2 dates and 2 times, and then I say, once you confirm back, I'll send you the phone number to call. So once you confirm back, I will send you the number to call. So I want them to confirm back. I want this date, and then I go, excellent, confirmed. Here's the number to call. Plan on 75 minutes. Plan on 75 minutes. Okay. And I also write something else like, you're going to want total privacy. You're going to want to be in a place with no interruptions, but I want to take it in bits. I don't want to talk about the phone number or how it's going to work until they've confirmed back. So it's in bits. Okay. Jennifer Butler, I have 2 hours set on Wednesday and 3 hours on Thursday on your calendar. You go. Emma, you're in. Chris Nelson, love it. I'm so glad you're in. Eileen Piersa, this is fantastic. So again, let's talk about that. We'll slow it down. It can feel really strange. You could be like, Carolyn said, sit at my computer and look and be like, who can I serve? This doesn't feel really useful. Stay in it. Tolerate the discomfort. If I get one person in my mind and in my heart from sitting for 30 minutes, and then I write an invitation, that is a fantastic day. If I use that time to do that, if one person comes to me through what I'm looking at on Facebook or Instagram or my email, that's tremendous. That's one more that you wouldn't have taken action on. So don't be attached to like, I'm going to do 30 minutes and I'm going to have 5 people come to me. You might. And you could declare a bigger game, like I'm going to do 3 sessions of enrollment time, and in that time, I'm going to connect and with 2 people at least. It's you get to decide the levels of the game, right? I like to slow it way down because I want people to come to me and I want to kind of lean in and be with it. I want to be really careful that I'm reaching out from a place of serving, not like, oh, let me get that person, right? At the beginning, it's all messy. It all doesn't really matter. Like just be in it. You want to be your word on this though. So if you said you're doing it and you put it on the calendar, we don't want to erode self-trust, right? We want you to make good on your word, right? That's being in integrity. So even if it's uncomfortable and even if you're like, this is stupid, I'm not sure about the CFJ. I'm just not sure about her. Like whatever, finish your time. If you said 30 minutes, do your 30. If you said 20, do your 20, right? And be in it and let it be messy and let it be uncomfortable, but follow through on your word and go, okay, I'm going to see what this is like. I'm going to put it on my calendar. Any other questions about that time that you're setting aside for yourself? Any other like thoughts or questions that come to you that you want to know? And, while I'm looking to see if you have more questions, I'm going to share a little bit about like this, depending on where you're coming from, this can be really sacred time, right? Like it's a time to be with yourself and be with people in your world without them even knowing, right? It's like when I ask that question, who would I love to serve? It's a deep question. It's like, that time can be a sacred time, right? Like for those of you that have more of a spiritual practice, you could like do a centering with yourself before it, open up the time, open up your eyes to see. It can be a really thoughtful time. And one thing that always happens, you're going to see someone, right? They're going to post something and you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that they were doing XYZ. Your brain is going to be like, oh no, don't do that. Like they're blah, blah, blah. They're not going to want to sit with you. Your mind, the inner critic, judge, whatever you want to call it, is going to come up with all the reasons why they wouldn't talk to you. If you are nudged inwardly to connect with someone, I encourage you to test that. Almost always my brain has been wrong. Like that part of me, the critic, the doubter, it's like we come up with 8 million reasons why. And it's like, find out. Give someone the opportunity to say no to you, right? Give them that. But don't discount that. Don't discount the inner guidance and be like, nah, I'm not. Nah, they wouldn't. They probably have a coach already. That's one. They already have a coach. Oh no, they're all good. Look how great their life is. It's like, don't let that occur inside of you. Or if it does, I'm giving you a heads up. Now you know what to do with it. All right. So I want to get to some questions. Jackie, is this suggested if our practice is full? Not necessarily, right? It's like if my practice is full, I don't I don't need enrollment time at the moment, right? I like to stay in it a little bit because I don't want to get totally rusty. But no, if your practice is full and you're good, then you are in the experience of the flame being turned down and just serving your clients, which is amazing. So then it's like you're gonna see, right? You're gonna be like, oh, I have 2 people completing in 2 months. Okay, do I want them to renew or am I gonna open it up more? So you're gonna start to pay attention to that. Okay, Mary, if they can't do either of our offer times for sessions, do we then send them a few more? I do. So I'm not willing to do those links, right? I do like, okay, here are 2 more options. So that's what I do. Emma, what do you think about having availability on your website for people to book a time to talk directly? Great question. Emma, you're going to find out like this is like a something I'm not a fan of. Okay. So what I don't like about that is number 1, it leaves a lot in their hands. Like that's assuming they're going to like do it, right? That they're going to be like, okay, I'm going to go to Emma's link and pick 2 times. And it's less personal. Now, again, this is an enrollment. If you have a client and you have them book sessions like that, that's fine. But if I'm in enrollment, I want to like take them by the hand and walk them to my door, metaphorically speaking. I want to be like, here's 2 options. I want them to know I'm in this with them. I'm not going to go away and be like, go to my link. You know, I'm with you in this. I want, because I had so many coaches in my school are like, they disappeared. I sent them the link and they disappeared. And I would say, because you're making them, they disappear because you're not with them. You're going away. And then they're like, maybe I won't hit the link. Maybe I'll go away. But if I'm with you and saying to you, here are 2 options, like I'm in it. I'm right there with you. I am an email away. I am waiting for your response. Versus the link, go to my link. Okay, I'll see it when it's there. So Emma, is that helpful? Can you hear that? I love that, Giselle, a time to realign with your purpose. Linda, coach you online. Way to go. So I want to see, Emma, do you hear that? So that's the downside of the calendar link, because we're going to finish up in just 2 minutes. But I will share a funny story. We had a coach in the school. He did the school twice, and in his he was so attached to being like, the link, Carolyn, but I do the link. And then he'd come back and he'd be like, they're gone. And I'd be like, so how many times are we going to do this before you really get that walking someone to your door, giving them dates, only giving them 2, because it's like I open up someone's calendar, I'm like, wow, look, I could choose this one and I could choose that one and I could choose this one. It gives them so much options. I want to lead people to my door. So, Emma, I'm glad. It was fab. I love that. Thank you for making my day. Oh, okay. So Linda, you're working with Arza on creating a webinar. I love it. That's so awesome. I love hearing that. Well, people, we're just about at time of the 45 minutes. So I want to acknowledge you. So rich, so good questions about the calendar, about enrollment time. And we have a new game that a number of you are playing. If you're watching the recording and you're like, I'm in, awesome. So you can participate even if you're just watching the recording of this. And remember, be your word. So even if you pick just one time, I'm going to do 20 minutes of enrollment time in the next week. That's a lot to start with. So be your word. I leave you with that. I'm sending all of you so much loving for the next week, for experimenting and practicing. I apologize that Amber Chris, the fabulous Amber Chris, is not here. We will work this out, people. See, this is messy, right? It's like coaches are learning. Even me, I'm learning. I'm always still learning. So happy Tuesday. Sending all of you so much loving, and look forward to seeing you here next week. Take good care. Bye.